Hey, Galax here. So I want to rate tier rank every single Madden of all time. Now, as you see at the bottom, there's a lot of Maddens I didn't play back in the day. Basically, got into the series around the turn of the millennium. So I'm going to rate every game that I played. I was like playing like Quarterback Club and a few others before 2000. Obviously, I played a little bit of those Maddens before that on like, friends and stuff, but nothing too crazy. So let's go, starting at Madden 2001 on the tier ranker. And of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say about my tier rankings. Maybe I could drop this tier maker in the description here, and then you guys can maybe fill it out and tweet it at me. We can take a look at where we agree, disagree overall. So, Madden 2001. Now, a lot of these things back in the day, it is going based off a lot of nostalgia and stuff. Like playing these games today, they wouldn't be nearly as good as, Madden 21 because technology just changed in the last 20 years. But overall, I really did like Madden 2001. Basically, one of my first, full-time entries into the Madden series. Like I said, QB Club, I think, was the one I owned right before this. So I'm going to put it in the good category. I feel like in 2001, they faced like a tremendous arc up afterwards because Madden 2002, 2003, which are going to go into my amazing area, 2002 and 2003. I remember in 2002, 2003, one of those 2 years, I think I played a franchise mode I played like 30 years, I think the franchise modes are. And I think I played maybe like one and a half of them in 2002. In 2003, I played three and a half or so 30-year franchises with different teams. Basically, I think it was like the Steelers twice, another team once, and then maybe back to the Steelers for another halftime. But like, it was an insane amount of time for a kid at that time. And I simulated a bunch of game too. But man, the game back then, it was crazy. It was like the best game in the world. Like there was other obviously very solid games on the PC back then. Your Command and Conquers, that kind of stuff. But overall, Madden for a console game, like yearly entry, just like absolutely banger after banger. And then it really kind of took off when we went to Madden 04. And I'm not going to put it in my greatest Madden of all time, right? There's so many that I'm going to put in the amazing. A lot of the early games you'll see in the amazing category because for the time, for what, everything else was being put out, obviously there's 2K and 2K is not included in this at all in that NFL and that franchise. But like 04 with the introduction of Michael Vick, right? And his ability to basically take over game, run behind the line of scrimmage, the entire game changed, right? Became like the focal point. Like Falcons were banned in a lot of places. Like you can't use them because they're just that powerful. Run around with Michael Vick, throw it up to Crumpler, that kind of stuff. But like overall, it brought like a superstardom like that. Like I don't know how to describe it, right? Like a lot of things are sold based off individuals. Like the NBA is huge because like the individuals, like LeBron James sells the league, and I know people are gonna in the comment section be like LeBron James is trash, whatever. Anyways, he's selling the league. He's great. Michael Vick was that for the NFL until the unfortunate decisions that he made with dogfighting and stuff. But he was like absolutely like he brought this series, he brought the NFL to like I don't even necessarily want to say the next level, but like absolutely like was like a milestone for the I guess entire franchise, the entire world. He was like a superstar, and it is too bad that he really didn't develop much more than that. But overall, Madden 04 was great. In Madden 05, this is going to go all the way up to my greatest Madden ever. Now, a lot of people are like, whoa, 05 was your top one? What about 06, 07? I'll talk about those in a second. Now, when Michael Vick came and became like a cultural icon in 04, they're like, wow, he's so overpowered. They made the next game defensive based. They brought in Ray Lewis for the hit stick. They had to get a counter to Michael Vick, some way of potentially slowing him down because he was just so unbalanced. So 05, which was my favorite one, had amazing franchise mode. Gameplay was very good. Obviously, there's still a ton of broken stuff that like you and your buddies. 4 verticals was even more powerful through basically every single Madden. I guess it's still pretty nice now, but even back then it was like uncoverable and man zone. You could find guys open. But anyways, 05, my favorite Madden of all time because, and now this is where there's gonna be a large split between me and a lot of other old heads. 06 was the worst Madden ever. A lot of people say 06 and 07 were like one of the favorites because they played it on PlayStation 2. 06, I stood in line, I think at Walmart to get an Xbox 360, and I bought Madden 06. And that was the worst gaming experience ever. Can you imagine like the downgrade from the greatest Madden of all time? And I think I've heard things like, go ahead and ask those like old EA devs, like the actual like what had to happen to get 06 off the ground for the gen. They basically had to rewrite the entire code going into '06, which definitely showed, right? It was a hot piece of garbage. Franchise mode, I don't even think that was included. Like '06 was, it literally, that's what killed a lot of my excitement and love of the franchise for a while. And '06, and I kept buying it year after year, thinking like, okay, this is the year. Like I kept falling for the marketing like a dumb kid. Like this is the year that it's going to be good. This is the year to turn around. Man, I love the things that they're promising us. '07 is not the worst Madden ever because that one goes to '06, but it was still trash, right? They had a radio show host. Like I was like, everybody loves Tony Bruno. Tony Bruno was fucking ass, right? That guy was terrible. So '07 was trash. Now, if I'm going to go ahead and going into '08, '08, I didn't see much improvement either in the next gen, right? This is about the time from '06, '07, '08, where Madden got the reputation of basically doing the same thing over and over, year after year. It's the same game one after another. So like it was a slog, right? And I was lucky with '08 and then into '09, which I think I'm gonna put '09 at below average as they kept building up. They kept adding more things back to the franchise. I think I'm gonna put also 10 in the below average. I think I recently booted up 10 not too long ago, and I'm like, oh, this, yep, still kind of sucks. But like basically started adding more things, right? They added back like commentators and stuff. They added, I think 10 was the first year of MUT. I didn't play MUT until 15, so we're gonna go for a few more years until we get to my thoughts on that. But overall, 9, 10, they were still doing that repetitive stuff. You know, the thing is, '09, you had that bundled with head coach, and I loved head coach. I played the heck out of head coach in '09. So Madden itself, kind of like whenever I wanted to play the game, I booted up Madden. But whenever I actually wanted to, like, you know, make my franchise mode good, do like, you know, create my own plays, which is something I think they took out of the game a few years prior to that of Madden. I was super excited. So Madden 10 comes around. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I play Madden 10. You know, get the superstar mode going. That's exciting. You know, you got NCAA that can kind of lead into these Maddens, and that's really fun. I really enjoy my time with the superstar mode. In I think 10, I played quite a bit of that. Now, when 11 rolls around, they kill off the NFL head coach series, and they tell us, oh, don't worry about it. NFL head coach is going to be great because it's going to make franchise mode great. We're basically installing franchise mode into Madden from head coach. So this is going to be awesome, right? And that was a pack of lies. That was an absolute freaking lie. I'm going to throw up 11 at average or okay. And it was a lie, right? They basically laid off the entire head coach team. I found out later. I felt absolutely betrayed because I booted up 11. I was like, oh, this is the exact same franchise mode in 10. This shit sucks. So 11, I think it was okay. It was still a little bit better than 10. I'm fine with it where it's at right there. 12 itself, kind of similar deal. You know, everybody had the fun with the vote. You know, the Peyton Hillis beating out Michael Vick for the cover vote. I thought that was funny because Peyton Hillis was like a one-year wonder. And I thought it was an okay game too, along with 11. Nothing really stood out. Franchise mode was kind of still there, kind of like really, you know, average, kind of stagnant. I kind of like got bored with Madden around here in 12 and stuff like that. 13 came around, and I thought it was like they kind of changed around franchise mode. They combined it with their superstar mode, renamed it. Now, it wasn't like awful. They ended up remembering and fixing their mistake, but I thought 13 was trash too. I did not like the way 13 really like played so much, but like you know, gameplay from year to year, and I didn't really play online much up until 15. Kind of was very similar. Like there were some neat things. You know, we had the quarterback cone, which I hated back in Madden, was like '07, '08 in there ish region. Like you had these things. You had like you know, game changers. You basically had like, you know, how we have abilities now. They had those back again in like the you know, 10, 11, 12 range ish. So like they had that stuff back then, and it was kind of like gimmicky. It was still football. You still played it to play your football team, to grow your franchise, kind of like that. So like I wasn't really into online head-to-head until 15-ish, and like playing the game, I thought like, you know, we had team play there. I think team play came into effect in 13, which was a nice mode, but still Madden was stagnant to me at this point. It really hadn't changed much. This is really where they lost a lot of franchise guys. I thought Madden 25. I'm gonna throw Madden 25 in the okay. Let me rename this average category here. So I thought Madden 25. Let me actually go like this. Yeah, Madden 25. I felt like was an average game. It was fun to play. I know online dabbled a little. You know, I from what I remember, quarterback raps was pretty powerful. This is the last year they had team play in the game. And that got kind of taken out. So a lot of people love team play, but basically it was, you know, just booting up with the same, you know, regs over and over. And I think regs online gameplay is just awful. And I think it's awful all the way up until Madden 21. Some people really love it. Some people really do enjoy regs. I just think it's kind of like, too much of the same thing with the same teams over and over. All right, now we're kind of getting into where I started playing MUT, right? My interest in the series kind of got rejuvenated in 15. I started up a YouTube channel in 15, so all these Maddens I've been doing content on. So these are like where I know the most of, because I've put in like thousands of hours a year into each one of these. Up until this point, I'm basically a casual Madden player. I'm just playing it for the enjoyment, just playing franchise, just because I enjoy the game of football. Here, I'm a content creator. Here, I'm doing stuff. Here, I'm playing online more. I still do a little bit of franchise, but I've kind of phased away from it because it has been trash for so long. I put out videos every year talking about how trash franchise mode is. So 15, my first year in Madden. I feel like everybody's first year in MUT is basically like, oh my God, I love MUT so much. I thought 15, its meta was a lot like, there were nanos back then, so people were shooting through your gaps. Like you had those things in the old games too. People can tell horror stories of the bad stuff that happened back in the old Maddens. You wouldn't even be able to drop back and you'd be sacked. 15 had, PA end around. The run was very good in the game. Overall, though, I think it was a fun experience. Those old MUTs were kind of enjoyable. More like, they were kind of like, let's just throw some stuff against the wall, hope it sticks. We had those golden tickets that were kind of wild. So overall, 15 I thought was a really nice game, really good. Its gameplay wasn't like, up to par. Obviously, we'd hate 15 it came out today because of how imbalanced it was. But overall, I am going to go back to 16 being amazing, right? 16, again, unbalanced, right? Aggressive catch, fullback dive. There's so many things that were so wrong, and the dime flats, nanos was crazy. But say what you will, its soundtrack was amazing. I didn't even go to soundtracks. I've done videos on the best soundtracks before. Maybe I'll link that in the description if you guys want to hear it. I listened through every single song and every single Madden all time and ranked them since the turn of the millennium. But 16 soundtrack was amazing. I Can't Feel My Face. It just banger after banger. I thought the gameplay, while like I said, it was like basically fighting power versus power, right? Like in 15 we had like the post up, the stop catch, what the heck would we call it, the rocket catching in 15. 16 was the aggressive catching, right? You basically threw out like 99 or 100 speed Odell, cover athlete, was probably the most like powerful cover guy, MUT master of all time in 16, and like you just threw it up, you watched him run past guys and you just like spec caught over him. Like 16 like was nanos, lobs, speed. It was basically the last of the Maddens where they're like, all right, well, this is a little powerful. Let's introduce something else even more powerful to stop it. And so like since that point, they started, they kind of gone on the thing like, all right, this is too powerful. Let's nerf it into oblivion. So 16 was the last of what I'd say the fun Maddens were like gameplay style before that kind of crazy. 17, it started getting a little too serious of itself, started going competitive. I thought 17 right here, when they started to go competitive, it's not the worst Madden ever, but it was trash. 17, I absolutely hated. It was like some of the worst gameplay ever. It was nickel blitz every single down. It was swerve catching. 17, you had some cross manning, of course, also, but 17 I thought was absolute trash. I hated that game more than anything. Like that was like, oh my God, do I continue making this content on Madden? 17 is awful. Like this is just like every single down's the same thing. It's basically Madden 21 and like the 3-5 meta, but like way more powerful. You had to rush 3 and you couldn't block it. There was no line adjustments. Like, right? You talk about everybody's like, oh, the Montez Sweat, that gut fox splits that I put out earlier this year. That like everybody's like, oh, that's so bad, but like that's so easy to block with the tools we have now. Basically, you don't see anybody running that because it's so easy to block. Versus 17, where you literally couldn't block nickel blitz. Right? You could send 3 to 5 to 6 and it was just getting home, right? And it had good run D. It made a lot of bad defensive players really good. 17, absolute trash. All right, now since 17, I think we've been building up, right? 17, ever since 17, that's kind of like the low point of recent Maddens. 18, I definitely think was a step up from the trash of 17. We had 91 zone, right? They're like, okay, well, we got to make defensive backs react. So they basically cranked you up to basically be superhuman guys. Then when you had guys that had like 91 zone, you basically had to run C routes or other breaking routes that you throw on because then the guys jumped the wrong direction. And so it's like kind of like a little bit of like, all right, you do this, I do that. Then you put in somebody with 90 zone and they don't jump and they get an interception. It was kind of funny. So 18 was definitely a step up from 17, but still, I thought the gameplay could have been touched up a little. It was like, if you had Barry Sanders on your squad and you were spinning, it was hilarious to watch. Like, you can go back and look through old highlights of Madden 18 running back reviews where you just hit the spin button, right? Sean Taylor running back, Michael Vick running back, and like the entire defense went flying. Trucking was also mega powerful in 18. So like, it was the year of amazing runs. A lot of people just running power the whole game. So I didn't like the meta because it was such a ground-based game that 18 really felt a little bit unfortunate unfortunate for that gameplay wise. All right, 19, we're still stepping up. I think 19 was a big step up from 18 gameplay wise. I think Mutt really kind of like Mutt hit its worst spot, I feel like, in 18. I think 19, 20, 21, they're listening to us a lot more. They're making a lot more changes. I think Mutt kind of hit a downer in 18, where for like 16, 15, 16 was awesome. 17 was a little step down. 18, I think, was the bottom of the barrel. And then 19, I think we started going back up both in Mutt and gameplay. But again, Mutt carried gameplay. You'll see that for a while now. Mutt's carrying gameplay in you know, how much we enjoy the game. 19 itself, you know, every game has its problems, and 19 was not a stranger to that, with crossers being so powerful. There was some loop blitzes, that kind of stuff. But overall, 19, I thought it was an okay experience. It got very annoying near the end of the year again, because basically the meta gets set and then like EA forgets to like develop for the game anymore. And like, you know, being a competitive game, maybe they should balance the meta out a little bit as the game goes on. It's a problem they've had for a few years. And then 20 comes along. 20, you'd love to say, hey, 20 is going back up because, you know, it's the next after 19. 20 is going to go in the same category as 19. It was very much a running down. We had overpowered abilities. None of the cards really started standing out, right? 20, it started to be a lot more like, you know, cards are coming out because we started going over 100 in 17, and they started basically becoming the same cards over and over with different names and faces. So the only thing that really stood out was like Moss 100, Dickerson 100, those cards that had those abilities and X factors that made them insane. So 20, while exciting to run through players, also not very exciting. Basically, the game was a ground attack game. It was very unfun to play against the run because it was so hard to stop it. And if they only threw like a couple times a game, they were dominating you because you had to commit so much to the run. That 20, I don't think really was a well-balanced product either. So that's just in the average category. I still think it was better than 18 and 17. You could argue because the meta was so unfun, you can move it down to below average. And I'm gonna go average itself. I thought Mutt was pretty good in 20. I thought they started coming back around to it. They brought back golden tickets, of course. But then my final game, Mutt 21. Where am I gonna put? Sorry, Madden 21. Where am I gonna put Madden 21? I actually think, not including next gen, we're not talking next gen, I actually think, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, I'm going to put it in the good category, right? I don't think it really hits the peak of early Maddens right now, but I think 21, right? With where it has been and with how well Mutt's been, right? Like we had training variety pack, cards are affordable, cards, you know, theme teams. There's been so many good things. Like you can basically spend hours outside of the gameplay, and then you get into the gameplay and play it some more. And you're like, you know, okay, it's stale with 335 wide. Sure, 146 is awful now too. But like I can go to basically like what 10 different formations on offense and have a very effective offense, which is wild to me. You really haven't seen that out of many you know, Maddens of the past. If you don't want to play against good players, you can go to next gen and play that slow game. They still got a lot of the inconsistencies of current gen, but we can see like the startings of something okay in next gen as long as they touch up the agility. There's, you know, next gen definitely has some benefits over current gen with like route running and stuff being individualized, and they can do more of that going forward. But overall, like I think we're gonna look back at Madden 21 as one of the last fun, like more arcadey Maddens, as they're going more to like realistic, slow speed guys, a little less fun, I think, right? Like because when you look back at these old Maddens like 04, 16, not realistic at all, right? Insanely unrealistic. But man, were they fun, right? And I judge games on their fun factor. So I think 21, while the meta's awful, while a lot of shit happens to you and you get really frustrated, I've had more than my fair share of frustrations with 21. I think it's better than all the last other ones, 19, 20, 18, 17, going all the way back to the PS2 era is the last time I think a game, or 16 really, like that era couldn't match up 21. I don't know, maybe it's recency bias, but you know, as frustrated as this game has made me, I don't think 21's going to be something that we're going to look back and be like, that game was awful. After playing a game and losing, yeah, it's awful. Watching you guys knock the ball down instead of intercept it, awful. Like you can list like comments, you could say that for like hours. Like you can list off comments about bad things of 21. But I still think it's better than the last other Maddens, and it is above average in the series overall. All right, let me know what you guys think. Of course, like I said, I'll link this in the description. You guys can make your own and tweet them at me. I'll take a look at them. But thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.